Rabbitohs Radio Podcast, the number one source for everything South Sydney Rabbitohs.
To another edition of Rabbitohs Radio. My name is Grant Chappell, joined by my loyal co-host and friend, Brendan the Rabbit Taliski. What's doing, Brendo?
Oh, not much at all, Chapo. Just knocked off work for the day, and went to work pretty proud today after the effort our mighty South Sydney Rabbits put in on Saturday night, mate.
Oh, it was just, guts and glory, and, you had no right to be in that contest, whether you look at the statistics, whether you look at the team we rolled out there as opposed to the Sharks, their position on the ladder, the form we had coming in. Look, we had no right to be in the contest, but led 6-2 at half-time. Incredible goal line defence where we had to, I think they had 60-odd tackles inside our 20. We had less than 10. One stage of the game, it was 54-3 tackles inside their 20. We'd already come up with a try right on half-time. Look, you can only take your hat off to the whole organisation, the coaching staff for preparing that team. That very under strength, not a lot of experience in some of them, but you had guys like Ryan Gray, unheralded player at the start of the year. Not many people knew much about him. Coming up with 65 tackles and big tackles he made down the middle of the field.
Definitely, mate. Ryan Gray was absolutely massive. I mean, 65 tackles in a game of football for a seasoned veteran is a really, really good effort. We're talking about a guy that's only played 3 or 4 games of first-grade football, chaps, to come up with that. And We've spoke about it on the previous podcast in recent weeks. It's next man up mentality, and we're down on troops. But all we really wanted is the blokes to play for this badge and play for the jumper. And mate, they did that and some the other night. I was actually at the ground live watching it, and when the game finished, mate, there was a lot of fans hanging around to cheer the players off and to thank the players. And there was so many people that were really proud. I spoke to a lot of different people there the other night, and they were stoked with the effort that the team put in. And moving forward for the rest of the year, even if we don't win too many games, if we compete like we did on Saturday night in the games to come, chaps, I think the supporters are going to be really, really proud.
Yeah, well, that's when you talk about legacies, and look, it's hard to think about legacies when you've lost 8 in a row and your season, when you look at the ladder, doesn't look too good. But they're the games that you can reach back on next season, the year after. The fact that you come into a game and you expected to lose, but that's just on paper. That's just all gamblers and people talking money. But when it comes down to it, it's 13 on 13 on the field at the same time. If you can come up and just do your job like Wayne talks about, doing your job every week, playing for the bloke next to you, playing for the jumper, playing for the club, playing for the fans, and come up with a result like that, mate. How was the Central Coast? How'd they take it? You're a Central Coast boy, Brendan. Just tell us about your day heading out to the game and who the people you went with and who you spoke to out there.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I went with he retired a couple of years ago, but I went with a really good mate of mine by the name of Dave Whiting, nicknamed Duck. He's a real good mate of Keith McCraw and the halfback from the 70s, Bobby Stratton. Good man, Duck. He's a South man, mate, from down your way, Matraville area, and he's from the old school, mate. He's followed him all his life, and we pinpointed this game earlier in the year because he's retired from work now, and he said, mate, when the Rabs come to Gosford, we want to get into that game. And I got into that game with him and another 2 or 3 guys from work. And another bloke we work with, his son actually plays for the Central Coast Mariners. So we just grabbed some general admission tickets for the crew in behind the goalpost. But we ran into his son when we got in there, and he got us up into the top tier on the 50-metre line on the Leagues Club side. It's not what you know, it's who you know, Chapo. So we were looked after there by a couple of the round ball blokes. Shout out to the Mariners boys and my mate Steely. He looked after us there. But, yeah, it was really good to get there with Duck. And, like I said, an old school South man. And he was really, really happy with the effort that the Rabbits put in. And Duck hasn't been to many live games, chaps. But one thing he did across the whole 80 minutes, because we had a bit of a bird's eye view of the game, we were watching it from up pretty high, and Duck just raved about Jai Gray. He raved about Jai Gray for the whole 80 minutes, and he was just stoked to watch him play live and the effort he put in for the jumper, along with the other 16 blokes. There wasn't a bad player out there, but yeah, me mate Duck really loved the effort of Jai Gray, chaps.
Yeah, look at some of the things he done. He had 3 or 4 tackle breaks. He had that little double pump with that try in the first half there. Come up with a couple of unbelievable catches under pressure with 3 or 4 taller men around him. He seemed to come down with it. The Fox commentators were in awe of this bloke, what he was doing out there. And look, he just brings that energy, that spark. He's got that little bit of foot speed there that can trouble an opposition. I thought he iced a few 2-on-1s. His passing game is improving, definitely. But, talk about certain things that he can't do. There's so many things this bloke can do, and that's all you can worry about. You're going to get 100% effort, commitment to his teammates. He's the jumper, the game, every single week. And, yep, he's the sort of bloke that, puts bums on seats, Brendan. And you bumped into someone in the toilet in there, mate. Tell us about the sword fight, mate.
Yeah, well, I was at the urinal there at the Gosford Stadium, and it was a bloke standing next to me that really loved the content you put out, and he recognised me from the potty, and yeah, he was a big rap for yourself and Brownie, and yeah, he said that he liked seeing me on here too, and yeah, I hope he didn't glance down, mate, because if he did, he probably realised I talk a bit bigger game on the potty than what I'm actually packing.
Oh well, look, we'll get off the pack and heat subject, mate. You got what you got, and you can and a bit like the South Sydney side, like you can only play with what you got, and that's what we did on the weekend. And I don't think I've been prouder in an effort this season. I thought, look, they deserve to walk off there as winners. Look, we'll get into the nuts and bolts of it. Look, I think we're 42% possession. Hardly had the pill. That we were outgained by 550 run meters. We only had a couple of tackles inside their 20. We were down 10-2 in the penalty count, 15-3 if you count the 6 agains. Look, Belinda Sharp. You've got nothing against women referees or whatever, or men referees, doesn't matter. But look, I just thought she had a Barry Crocker in the game, lost a bit of control at times. There was one particular play where she told Junior it was last tackle. And he went, and there was a bit of confusion, and came back, took the ball off Junior, gave it to Jai Gray, and said, "You play it." Now it's last tackle. I've never seen that in a game before in my life. Now, whether or not Belinda forgot to signal fifth tackle and decided that must be a rule where you can actually let them play the ball again. There was another one where we had a challenge call. I think we ended up winning the challenge, but then she didn't have a clue where the play the ball was. She walked over and said, "Where was the play the ball?" Look, you got to know that stuff. In a challenge, you should know exactly where that play, that tackle was complete. So anything happens, you know go back to it. Look, that's just a couple of small things. There was a 6 again late in the game, which didn't cost us. It was on the 5th tackle. There was nothing doing. The Sharks player took his time getting off the ground and called a 6 again. Mate, that's not a... Anyway. Look, you don't want to blame referee decisions, but in a contest like that where the Sharks the frustration of the Sharks, you can see it on their faces. They couldn't penetrate through the bunnies, whether it was Lewis Dodd coming up with a try saver there. He got beat on the outside and he stayed on his feet and kept competing for the ball. There was another couple from Jacob Host, a couple of blokes, there that probably haven't had big raps throughout the season, Dodd and Host, but they're the sort of blokes that were coming up with try-saving tackles and moments that had to be made to keep us in the contest through the 80 minutes.
Yeah, definitely, chaps. To back up what you're saying too about Belinda Sharp, I'm like you. I love the women in the game at all levels. Women volunteers, women referees, and even the women that are playing the game. But if you're sort of not up to it, you're not the best person for the job. I don't think we should have you at professional level. And getting back to what you were saying about guys like Jacob Host and Lewis Dodd, I've got to say myself personally, I've been pretty critical of Louis Dodd on previous programs in the last few weeks. And I left there the other night really proud of the effort he put in for the jumper. So big shout out to you, Lewis Dodd, and especially the try saver on an origin player like Nico Hines. He was able to get up under the ball and hold Nico, which is a fair bit bigger man than him up off the ground and save a certain try. And that one moment there from Lewis Dodd, that's what the fans need to realise. That kept us in the contest for the long run. That kept us in the contest for the whole 80 minutes, that one tackle. And his kicking game was quite good. And as you alluded to with Jacob Host, there was a lot of good effort plays from Jacob Host. He ran hard, he tackled hard, and a shout out to Jacob Host too, because like you say, we give a bit of constructive criticism on this program, but we love the Rabbits, we love the club, and we're all about giving blokes a shout out when they have performed. And those two guys were really, really good on Saturday night, and they really did the jumper proud, chaps.
Yeah, that's just a couple of guys off the top of my head without nothing written down for them guys. But yeah, look, we'll go back to Belinda Sharp again on a couple of decisions. I'll come back to Louis and have my say on Louis later on. But the Jack Whiten sin binning, mate. Maybe it's fair on the night. The onus has got to go back onto the defender. He come in. I don't think it was a shoulder charge. I didn't see any cocking of the shoulder like that. I think he sort of half had his right arm out. Probably got the timing wrong. The head clashed. He went off. Toby Rudolph, and I hope you're all right, Toby, out there, buddy. He's a good fellow, Toby Rudolph, from around my area, Maroubra. And look, now subsequently they charged him. He was going to miss 3 to 4 weeks. Well, good on South Sydney. They're going to challenge it and have their day in court and have a crack. I'm not sure how it's going to go, but I'm just glad that the club have come out and said, stuff this, we're not copping that. We've already copped a bloke in the bin for 10 minutes during the game in a tight contest. Look, maybe 1 week might have been suffice or just a fine, but 3 to 4 weeks? Come on. You're G'ing up, aren't you?
Yeah, mate, I sort of like how the club, I don't mean to use the term roll over, but they haven't rolled over and accepted it. They've gone, no, look, you know what? We're going to have a crack at fighting this. And I've followed rugby league football all my life, and I know you haven't. And, we know the game, and there's collisions in a game of rugby league. And his arm was half wrapped, and it was a head knock. And like you said, Toby Rudolph, terrific fella. Right, we don't want to see any guys knocked out in a game of football, and we know the damage concussion can do. But at the end of the day, and Gus Gould, an expert of this sport, has been saying for years and years and years, there are accidental collisions in this game. It's a hard game, played by hard men at a very high pace, and there will be men that are knocked out. And there'll be women in the women's game that are knocked out. And I think due to him laying prone on the ground motionless, Jack White ended up in the sin bin over that. And I honestly believe, because Belinda Sharp sent him to the sin bin, that's now led into a suspension. And I do think it's a wrong call, and I'm hoping Jack gets off it. And on Jack Whiten, one of the oldest blokes on the field for the Rabbits the other night, I mentioned before sitting up high at the stadium with me mate Duck and the other crew of guys from work. And the effort from Jack Whiten, because I see a few fans online that, say this, say that about Jack Whiten. He is all effort, that guy. I've seen him sprinting 40, 45, 50 metres, kick chase, and he's barking at the blokes behind him to keep up with him, and he's 32 years old. And the reason why he jammed up out of the line, tried to whack Rudolph, is because he's playing for the jumper for 80 minutes with some of the best effort of any bloke I've ever seen in the red and green. Jack Whiten, I absolutely love the bloke, and I love what he brings to the team every week.
Yeah. Look, Jack Whiten, you know what you're going to get. Look, the Clive Churchill medalist. Sorry, the George Pickens medalist last year at the club, Player of the Year. He's done that for a reason. Look, and he's been thrust back into a role he probably didn't want to play at South City. He didn't come up here to play 5'8". We had Cody Walker and a few of the guys already in front of him. We've had this injury list of 18 unavailable last week out of our top 36 full-time players, unavailable to take the field. If you picked our best 17 on the roster, 10 of them were unavailable for this game, Brendan. 10 out of 17. And you got a guy like Jack Whiten who's one of the best. He's one of our best 17. And another guy like Alex Johnson. I thought Alex Johnson came up with some huge defensive plays, Brendan. Not only that, he showed a bit of spark in the second half when he got a little bit of early ball and the boys. He turned Cronulla around for the first time. We didn't get out of our half hardly the entire game. If we don't have that big middle forward rotation that can punch holes in the opposition, the line speed of Cronulla is pretty good. You got to take your hat off to Cronulla for that. But look, yeah, they're the sort of veterans that come up with big plays, and Alex Johnson, I was proud of what I've seen from him and what he did. But what about just one more talking point on the refereeing side of thing? The Brayley try come off. I think it was a Adam Fanor Blake big hit up, and then they kicked the ball downfield. They tapped it back, ended up in the hands of Brayley. He's gone over and scored, but the replays showed the side on angle. He didn't have full control of that ball. It was slightly dislodged as he put the ball down. Now, in previous weeks, I've seen that try disallowed. Now, it took him a long time to get to that side angle, Brendan, but myself, that's a clear no try.
Mate, definite no try. There was a bloke a couple of rows in front of me that was dressed in more Cronulla gear than I reckon you'd find in ET's wardrobe. He was a big Cronulla bloke, and he actually said to me he was a good, fair supporter of football and obviously wanted to see a good, fair game. And he said, mate, Brayley dropped that ball. He said, Brayley dropped that ball. It's a knock on. And
there you go.
I reckon 99 times out of 100, you see that. Where there's been a bobble, it was probably an inch and a half off the ground, and you clearly saw the ball drop, chaps. But what they did is they kept going to the back, the rear view, where it looks like he sort of lands on the ball after he's dropped it. They kept going back to that view, the bunker, because on this occasion they wanted to give the try. On a lot of occasions they're looking to disallow it, right, mate? But on this occasion they wanted to give it. So they kept going back to that back view. But every time they come back to that front view, there's clear separation, mate. That was a knock on. And I'm really disappointed that the effort the Rabbits put in, we were the better side in my opinion, and it's come down to a Brayley knock on that was awarded a try, and at the end of 80 minutes there's a 2-point margin. So, mate, I was really disappointed with that, chaps.
Yeah, I think they got that one wrong. And look, it'd love it to get the 2 points. It would have been, but just wasn't our day in terms of the scoreboard there. But I think our boys, as I said before, we've done enough to win the game. On a positive note, we talked about effort and efforts. Continual effort on effort plays keep you in the contest. And there was a play in this game by Lachlan Hubner, big hubby there, just chasing back, just in case, chasing back. Will Kennedy, a speedy fullback, was able to get in there and just annoy him enough and try and drive him over the sideline as he threw the pass back inside. It was called forward, but stopped a certain try there. They're the sort of efforts that just give us an opportunity at the back end.
Definitely, mate. Little Lachlan Humner, what a terrific little boy he's been. We come up with a really good win many months ago now against Brisbane, and on that particular night, he was getting up underneath the ball on Payne Haas, this little hubby, and he was dumping him into the turf. I remember myself and your big cousin Scotty actually saw him at the juniors at a function the next day and thanked little hubby for his efforts. And he was a terrific bloke, mate. He had a good chat to us and a terrific little footballer and tough as they come, Rockhampton boy. And we just got the news today, chaps, on hubby, that he's actually re-signed with the club for a couple of years and we're going to keep a guy like him around. And I think that's great, mate, because speaking to him that day, he's a great fella. He had time for myself and obviously your cousin. I'm pretty sure Big Scotty got a photo with him. Yeah. And we've seen the efforts he can come up with on the field. So if he's going to hang around our club while we're going to try and rebuild and get back up the pointy end of the ladder, mate, I'm stoked about that.
Well, he's a guy that, he's not going to chip and chase and put the points on the board for you, even though he did have a try assist late in the game for Junior Tola. He put him through a hole, but look, he's just one of them guys you want in your team. A Luke Stewart, for example, who just rolled the sleeves up, done his job for the Rabbits for years and years without any fanfare. A Peter Cusack or someone like that. Just a bloke you want in your team. A Jason Clark, he's a real team player, and he's going to do everything in his power to try and get the result for you, win, lose or draw. Congratulations to not only hubby, because he wasn't off contract. Come June 30, he would have been available to negotiate with other people, but South Sydney have been negotiating with him for months and months, and I believe he signed this contract a few months back, but whether or not the timing of it, coming off the back of one of those effort plays, that's always a good time to announce it. You know, timing's everything in rugby league, as you know. They've just done a social media clip of him chasing that Will Kennedy, and well done. He's got a further 3 seasons with us, not only next year, 2 more seasons after that, 20. Yep. So it'd be good to have him. Good to have him on board, and I'm sure can't wait to see him and Cam Murray in the same side, and Brandon Smith, that small, hard working middle. You can't have enough of those sort of guys in your team. So yeah, well done to the Rabbitohs for getting that deal done, and not letting him jump on that open market and push his price up there. I'm sure that was part of the plan. Just on Dodd, 68 minutes. He had 25 tackles, no misses, so he did his job in defence. The try saver I thought was very impressive. But for me, what I've been saying all year, he's got a great kicking game. He comes in, he splits wingman and fullback a few times in this game. He's playing off the back foot. He's kicking from inside his own half the entire game, Brendan. He hardly put an attacking kick in because we weren't down that end of the field. And look, we know what his weaknesses are. He doesn't take the line on that much. He had 2 runs for 14 metres, 1 post-contact metres. But in a game like that, he was perfect. And I would have no problems chucking him in there again next week. And playing off the back of that kicking game. The other one was Ashton Ward on debut, the little fella from Gerringong, 73 kilos. Got out, just didn't look out of place there, Brendan. Jumped in a dummy half for the first period of it. Then he got out in the first receiver on that other side, and he came up with a nice little attacking kick, and there was nothing on. He poked it in behind, dribbled into the corner, and nearly come up with a try to Tyrone Munro.
Yeah, mate, he was great, little Ashton Ward. I watched a great little video, chaps. I'm pretty sure you would have seen it because you watch plenty of content of Ashton Ward's old man, his father, presenting him the jersey, and he mentioned that I think it was 4 blokes from the Gerringong Lions team that Ashton Ward was playing with have debuted in the NRL this year. And what I want to say with the emergence of quite big forwards and outside backs now and a lot of big, strong Islanders playing the game is, mate, you got to have a real bit of ticker at a 72, 73 kilo, a small man to get out there and mix it up in the NRL. You really do. And we mentioned on the program last week that, you know, you thought he was up to it and he'd earned that opportunity. And he definitely didn't let anyone down on Saturday night. And big shout out to you, Ashton Ward, because it was great to see the little bloke in the Rapids jumper, and he was really part of a great effort by the organisation, by the mighty South Sydney District Rugby League Football Club.
Yeah, well, you spoke about the junior league team. He was in the Gerringong team. They're hardly beaten for 8 years, and they had Dylan Egan, one of the better young players at the Dragons at the moment. Hamish Stewart was in his side.
Great
and
player.
a guy that, unless you watch all the pathways, you won't know who he is, Taj Ford. He's sort of one of the next big things coming out of the Sharks. Fullback, halfback, 5'8". I've called some of his games in flag. And SG Ball. He's certainly a decent footballer himself. So they were hard to beat. My mate Youngbloke had to go up against him a few times. And they said they were just very tough and formidable opponents. So well done, Ashton Ward, Rabbitoh 12-11, I think he is there. Had all his family up there. And again, just how brave is this bloke, you know, playing at that weight against the big men. And he didn't let anyone down, mate. That's exactly right. Jai Gray, I think you mentioned him earlier, just the mighty mouth himself, what he can do to a side, and just instill a bit of confidence to have him at the back. I think it's brilliant. And look, with Latrell coming back from injury, I'm hearing he possibly might pop back as early as the Parramatta game, which isn't too far away. Maybe a bit like earlier in the year when he came back, what was best for the team was to put him in the centres or at 5'8". They might end up doing that again, just to keep Jai Gray in the side somewhere, and you get his energy. Latrell can jump in the centres. dangerous in the centres, good defender. He's good in the halves. If we need him to play 5'8" with Cody, he's still not back. He's got the kicking game. He's got the passing game. So anyway, we'll see. We'll see on that front, mate.
Yeah, mate. I mentioned it on the potty last week. The effort that Jai Gray, especially one of the smallest blokes in the NRL, mate. There's so many times you're looking at 2 or 3 carries in a set, chaps, and often at times he's taken a run through the middle, right into the meat of the forwards, and I think he's earned the right to have a spot in the 17 every week. Now, Latrell, freakishly talented. I'm not too sure what they're going to do there, but I think it'd be a bit of an injustice to not have Jai Gray in the 17 every week. And as you mentioned earlier when we were chatting on the phone today, you know, a Latrell Mitchell in the front line at 5'8" with some of the ball playing skills that he does possess, great option. And Latrell Mitchell's won a couple of comps for our most hated rival, the Eastern Suburbs Roosters. We don't like saying that on this program, but we've got to mention him. He's won a couple of comps in the centres for those guys, chaps, and was a terrific footballer. As the great Joey Johns used to say, mate, in the centres for the Roosters, he was like that Ferrari in the garage, mate. And they opened that garage, mate, and gave him that ball, and he was off, mate. So, you know, he can have an impact in the centres or at 5'8". And then with a lot of injuries in the team, I think you really need an effort player like Jai Gray. I do honestly believe guys like him lift other guys around him. And Jai definitely did that Saturday night, chaps.
He did, mate. Now, on a negative front, but Ty Munro, prodigious young talent, been through hell and back in his personal life. Come up with 156 run meters. His carries were strong. Out of all the backs besides Jai Gray, he had the most meters, but he come up with 5 errors, knock-ons, off kicks. Brendan, what do you think we do with Ty Munro? We haven't got enough depth at the moment to put him back in the Reggies and work on it. Was it just an off night, or are you going to give him the benefit of the doubt?
Yeah, probably have to give him the benefit of the doubt there, mate. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen him that dicey under the high ball before, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't great the other night. He come up with a couple of crucial errors, but then at the end of the day, we only scored 2 tries, and he did score one of them. Push comes to shove, his name's in the paper the next day. Tyrone Munro scored a try, and he does possess that electric pace, and speed wins games. And I think, at this point in time with our injuries, with a full strength team, if we had guys like Stretch Graham, even Bailey Bentley Harpo that was showing quite a bit of form earlier in the year, possibly we could drop Ty back to Reggie, but I don't really think we've got that option now, mate. So we're just going to have to go with him. And, yeah, we can only just hope that performance against Cronulla under the high ball was an off night, mate. He's going to fix that up this week because, tell you what, there's some really good kickers of the ball in that Brisbane Broncos outfit. So we're really going to need him to be on his game going forward, mate, because we can't afford any player to make 4 or 5 errors in a game, chaps.
The great man Adam Reynolds will be licking his lips. I'll tell you, he'll be putting some spirals up there in that direction. No, look, I mean, Bailey Bentley Harpo made a successful return through Cup over in New Zealand. They had a really understrength side. They beat 68-6, so I'm not sure if that's going to help Ty Munro. I'm going to be calling those games this week. They're playing Parramatta out there at Kellyville Memorial Park. I'm going out to call the flag and the reserve grade, so that'll be another tough outing for the boys. Parramatta are always pretty tough, but look, you never know. We might be getting a few blokes back. Juniors are told at the end of the game, lunged out, dislocated that shoulder. We haven't heard any reports as to what it is and how significant it is. You've seen a few days earlier the halfback for the Melbourne Storm, young Hughes. He done the same thing, Brendan, pretty much, not scoring a try, but reaching out. They reckon he's going to be all right. He'll be back for the semi-finals, no damage. So with any luck, Junior might not be out for the year, but we'll see. We'll have to wait and see what scans are like. But players coming back, pretty sure you're going to have your 2 concussion guys will be definitely available. Jamie Humphries, Peter Mamazoulis. spine players. We can't have enough of those guys. If they come back into the side as automatic selections, Brendan, you've got to replace Junior Satola with a shoulder. How do you think you'd go about that?
Yeah, mate. I mean, we've mentioned on the potty before. I'd like to see Tommy Fletcher come in, but I obviously know Tommy's not a middle forward. He's an edge player. So you're probably looking at bringing someone like an Artata in to replace Totola. But then I don't know what else we could do with the middle forward rotation if we're not going to bring Artata in. Are we able to move a few deck chairs and bring a few guys into the middle and then possibly debut Tommy Fletcher? I'm not sure, chaps. I mean, how would you go about that, mate?
Well, I haven't been disappointed in Shaq Mitchell's form the last couple of weeks in reserve grade. Look, a bigger body, gets tired a bit easier in the middle of the field. But if you just set your sights on giving him 15-minute spells off the bench, he's got that great catch and pass, and he plays that first receiver role, which can take a bit of pressure
in and out balls around the ruck
off your halves. Yeah, you can do all that. And he holds the ball like an orange, like I've said before. He's a big man. He's an option. He's played 20 first-grade games before. Played an Indigenous All-Stars game earlier this year. I think he scored one of the only tries in the game. So, look, he's certainly an option. I'm not sure how you could drop Ryan Gray out of the side after doing all those tackles. If you're going to bring Peter Mamazoulis in, or if you're going to drop Lewis Dodd or Ashton Ward out of that side and bring him into the halves, you can push Jackie White into the centres. Look, I don't know how they're going to go. Either way, they might be able to just have a couple of more experienced guys in that New South Wales Cup team coming up this week.
Yeah, mate. I mean, I actually forgot about Shaq Mitchell. I mean, shout out to you, Shaq. Yeah, he's a great option, mate. He's so skillful for a big man. Like I said, he's got the little in and out balls around the ruck. He's got a ball before the line. He's got an offload. He really showed some great form in that Indigenous game earlier in the year in February. So yeah, mate, we could definitely bring him back into the side. I think he's really got something to offer, Big Shaq.
Well, he's that genuine middle. We don't really play him anywhere else, do we? It's on a lock front row. He doesn't really have any other numbers written on his back when he plays. We went into the season with 4 front rowers. Junior Satola, he looks out now. Davey Mawali, he's out for the season. Sean Kepi, who played all right the other night. Kepi didn't have huge minutes or meters or anything, but I thought defensively he played well. And the other one was Shaq Mitchell. They're the only 4 front rowers he brought into the season, genuine number 8s and number 10s. We've had some hybrid ones, your Tallis Duncan, your Hubners, your Jairos, your Keon Kalomatangis, who would jump in and play a middle role, but they're that versatile sort of thing. So, and that's one of the criticisms of the roster was we didn't have enough of those genuine 8s and 10s to come in, bend the line back. You've seen the other day, we couldn't get out of our own end the other night. Could not punch out of our own end against Cronulla pretty much for 77 minutes. We were just coming off our line, hardly penetrated that 50-metre line. And that's what 10s and 8s do. They're going to just keep bending the opposition back, and it gives you a chance to do an early shift or hit the edges hard and have some guys punch into some bigger holes than what you'd normally get. Look, I'm sure that's going to be a focus in the off-season. I'm trying to bolster those front rowers. We know we've got a couple of young blokes down there that aren't far away. You mentioned him before, Celestia Tata, nice middle forward. Elijah Keyoung will come into calculations next year.
Hanson.
Yeah, Johannes Logan. He'll come in. Tim Johansson's done a job down there. Tyson Whakaosi has been pretty strong for a big man. Look, however they go that way, they might, and they're certainly going to bring in a few more train and trialists as well, and see who wants to win that job and be a part of that roster come round 1 next year.
Yeah, mate. Another option in the front row. I'm a big rap on him, as I know you are. He actually reminds me when he tackles blokes. A bloke by the name of Nigel Plum used to play for Penrith. That used to absolutely snap blokes in half when he hit them, and that's Leon LeBlanc, mate. I think we could even get a little bit of something out of starting Liam LeBlanc in the front row with possibly Kepi with this injury crisis we've got. I think he's a real goer, Liam LeBlanc, and he's a young man that I think he's capable of a lot more minutes than what he's actually playing, chaps, and I'd like to see him play more minutes because, mate, he's as tough as they come. He runs with intent, and he hits with intent, and that's what we need at the moment, mate.
Yeah, he does things pretty hard. I mean, was it Jesse Ramey and he belted the other day, picked him up and slammed him on his back.
Yeah, pretty sure it was.
And the commentators mentioned that. Yeah, that's what he does. And I've seen him locking horns with Cameron McGuinness a few times, coming in that bear hug one-on-one with him and really tried to physically overpower a really tough bloke. And I think he did it on a few occasions, actually flipped him onto his back against his will. We know what Cam McGuinness is like. He's the ultimate professional and very strong. And I don't think LeBlanc got over the top of him a few times. And yeah, well, he could be someone you could use off the bench straight up there in front row, lock, whatever. But yeah, he's going to get some game time going forward, mate. You got anything else on this game before we wrap it up, mate?
No, just a couple of things, chaps. Just obviously met that bloke in the restroom there that knew about the potty, but spoke to another couple of people throughout the night that mentioned yourself and Brownie and the podcast, and that was really good, mate. Obviously, there's a lot of loyal supporters out there on a cold night at Gosford, and they're the same sort of loyal supporters that are listening to your content, mate. And another guy I run into was one of the greats from Port Botany, the great Phil Colley, mate. And I tell you what, I've heard Phil Colley wasn't a bad footballer back in the day, and he's got a big set of Ruben scarves on him, mate, a big set of tackle breakers.
Yeah, he's certainly all calves, isn't he, Phil? Yeah, no, he's a great fella, Phil. One of the boys from work. He was a captain of the SG Ball side of the Balmain Tigers, maybe 94, maybe 95, something like that. So he was a fair player himself. Phil loves his league, big Tigers man. His young bloke Ryan's a big South fan. His daughter's a great, one of his daughters a great football player. Seems to be doing really well up there. But anyway, on to the cup. They're beaten 12 tries to 1. Look, you're talking about the team coming first, team coming last. It was a tough day out for the boys over there. They had to fly over, get touched up by the Warriors. A lot of space around the middle. It was a tough game for them. And we might just leave it at that. And hopefully they've got better days ahead of them with a bit more experience. They had to bring up a guy from, it was the Coogee Dolphins, I think, or Coogee Wombats, one or two Coogee A-grade sides. He come up and had a go. Cody Kelso. Did all right too, Kelso. So well done to him. His first opportunity to wear the red and green jersey. Put up some nice stats there. They blooded a couple of under 21s boys, but yeah, it wasn't their day. The New South Wales Harvey Norman Women's Premiership. We've got a bloody good side there, Brendan. We touched up the Dragons down in the gong, 26 points to 4. Look, to me, the star of the day with the halves, Kiara McGregor's been good all year and touted as a real one of the next big things. But the 5'8", big 5'8", Owen Craigie style 5'8", great ball skills, can carry the ball, scored 2 tries herself. Louisa Yaranamua, what a player, just the ball skills on her. She turned, I think she had 2 or 3 try assists in the game and scored 2. So that's a fair day out. Well done, the Tippy and the crew there. Keep it up. They're in that top 5 discussion. I think they're 1-2, had a draw, lost 1. And look, keep flying the flag, girls. We're proud of you.
Yeah, mate, if that 5'8's compared to the big OC, mate, the big Owen Craigie, mate, she must go all right because, geez, he offered plenty to the Rabbitohs, mate, in an era that was pretty hard to get results. So shout out to you, Owen Craigie.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 3 try assists, 2 tries. That's a fair day out, mate. I can tell you that much. That's about a hand in everything. Anyway, that might be about it, Brendo. We're going to leave it there. We'll come back tomorrow for Teamless Tuesday. We'll get this one out of there. That might be about it for another edition of Rabbitohs Radio Podcast. Up the mighty Rabbitohs.
Go the Rabs.